Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the PNN Podcast, Season 2, Episode 2. Edward Demon and Joy Parati coming to you here on YouTube, hopefully Spotify as well. Joey, episode number 2. A lot going on, coming off a pretty busy President's Day weekend. A lot of action, including some NBA All-Star, some TGL, Daytona 500, and some hockey as well.
Yeah, loaded weekend, as you said. Yeah, just all it kind of seemed like all the sports, at least if you want to call some of the events some sports, but they were all coming together this week. And hopefully you guys liked the first episode last week. We're gonna keep it going probably once a week here on the PNN podcast. But yeah, like we said last week, this is our first time doing YouTube, but it's pretty exciting nonetheless. So yeah, Edward, why don't you kick it off with what the big news was, the
Yeah,
biggest event?
Yeah, so we got this Four Nations hockey going on. So for, I guess anyone who doesn't really watch the NHL, or hockey in general, this is typically your All-Star weekend. This year, instead of the All-Star game, they're doing the Four Nations, four teams squaring off: USA, Canada, Sweden, and Finland. All in it was kind of a round robin points system for, like, I guess, a quote unquote first round. And then the two top teams, which ended up being Canada and the U.S. advanced to the finals. Finals are going to be this Thursday. And I'm sure anyone who has paid attention, even a sliver amount to sports, heard about the first USA Canada game. USA beat Canada 3-1, but Joy, a lot of fighting, kind of setting the tone for this Thursday championship matchup. There were three fights in the first 9 seconds. And I guess worth mentioning too, all of this is happening in Canada, I believe Montreal. So U.S. kind of going into some hostile territory, ruffling some feathers there for the Canadian hockey fans.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what probably started it was the fact that they booed our national anthem. They
Yeah,
booed us during our national anthem. So that happened. And then once puck dropped, I just seen gloves fly everywhere. And yeah, like you said, three fights in the first 9 seconds. And the rest were just letting them hash it out, which is what you like to see.
yeah.
Uh, But then this championship game going to be taking place in Boston, Massachusetts. I couldn't think of a better place to represent America, honestly, for hockey. Um, Definitely going to be some fireworks though Thursday night.
Yeah, first game was, like I mentioned, 3-1, but I thought it was a competitive game. And I guess really too, in this being instead of the All-Star game this year and then next year being a Winter Olympics year, makes it more like all the more interesting to me because both these teams are likely going to see each other next year. Most definitely see each other next year in the Olympics. So kind of getting like a little preview of what's to come this year with the Four Nations. I should also mention too. They're going to go back to the All-Star format next year, but the players will be allowed to leave for the Winter Olympics, which hasn't always been traditional. Like the NHL season didn't always stop for the Olympics; they would continue to play the NHL season during the Olympics. So the players wouldn't always have the opportunity to go play in the Olympics, but next year they will. So definitely some exciting stuff in hockey. Believe it or not, hockey producing some good storylines on like you mentioned, Joey, a pretty loaded President's Day weekend.
Yeah, much rather watch the Four Nations hockey than this NBA All-Star game bullshit we had to watch, respectfully.
Well, and that's the thing too. Like, we got treated with a good, I guess, alternative to the NHL hockey All-Star game, and then the NBA All-Star game actually probably turned in a even worse product than they have had in previous years. So
Yeah.
it is, I guess.
Yeah. And another event that happened over the weekend, we'll just breeze by this one, is the Daytona 500, a big racing event for all NASCAR fans out there. William Byron returns and wins for the second straight year, actually. I know, Edward, you're pretty heavy into NASCAR, as
Definitely.
you told me before.
No.
No, I'm just joking. But it is a pretty big event, though. I think
Yeah.
we could all say that the Daytona 500. So I had to give a shout out to all the NASCAR fans out there.
Let me tell you,
Um,
there are very few sports where you can actually take about a 2 hour nap in the middle of it and not miss a single thing. And the Daytona
yeah,
500 ranks right in that grouping.
yeah, especially this year, there was a big rain delay, and I guess it takes like 2 hours to dry up the track.
Okay.
So you had the rain and then you had them drying off the track. So you could have taken a whole 10-hour nap and
Yeah,
probably
sounds
could
like
have cut the
riveting
end of it.
stuff. Riveting stuff.
Yeah, yeah. And then lastly, we'll breeze by this one also, the Genesis Invitational, also known as the Torrey Pines Classic, took place this weekend. Ludwig Agberg won, and me and Edward were talking about this before. He's probably one of the more popular up and coming golfers in this generation. Obviously, he's part of the TGL, which we'll get into soon. But yeah, the purse was $20 million.
Yeah. Genesis Invitational too. A pretty, I would say one of the more notable tournaments on the PGA Tour schedule, at least in the beginning of the year. Um, it's the Tiger Woods tournament. He's the tournament host of it. Definitely a big tournament for Ludwig to get under his belt early this year. But like you mentioned, Joey, two top tens already this year. Obviously the win. And I don't know. I feel like he is definitely like we look in the next 5 years or so of the PGA Tour, one of the guys that I think will be more or less the face of golf, at least for the next couple of years.
Yeah, he finished with under 12. So pretty dominating. I mean, second place was minus 11. So good back and
Yeah.
forth there, but
Torrey
minus
Pines too,
12.
a tough course,
Yeah.
especially this time of year. You're talking about, it's typically at least known for being a little windy and stuff right along the coast. So I don't know. Shout to Ludwig though. I like him, and like you mentioned, Joey, also making waves in TGL. And I don't know. I don't know if anyone had a better weekend than that guy.
Now, and let's get into this TGL. You know what I mean? People are asking, what is TGL? Why do you keep bringing it up?
Right.
Stands for Tomorrow's Golf League. There's six golf clubs representing six different cities that will go head to head in a season-long competition at the SoFi Center, which is in Palm Beach State College. So basically, what it is they hit into this giant simulator that I believe is like 3 stories tall. The screen is. Um, and then they hit into the simulator. Obviously, the courses are created like differently. Um, and then they'll have 3 different sections where you can hit out. So if you hit in the fairway, you're gonna hit off probably like a solid green surface. You hit in the rough, obviously you hit in the rough, and then the beach is the sand. And you hit into those 3 categories wherever your ball lands. And then after that, you'll chip on the green or whatever. There's actually an IRL green that's like all turf, I believe, with sand traps, and it rotates 360 degrees, and it has the green surface levels out with these panels underneath, matching what it looks like on the simulator. So it's pretty legit, honestly.
Yeah.
It's a fun way to watch golf because they're very laid back. They're not uptight, and they also have, I think this is what intrigues me the most is that they're all mic'd up. So you can hear what they're saying, how they're gonna read a line, what club they're gonna use on a specific hole. I think that's what people like the most. And obviously it's an indoor competition, so the crowd gets rowdy. You see fans heckling the golfers when they're about to make a putt. So I would recommend it if you're not into watching golf or if you're like starting to watch golf at all. Definitely tune in. It's on ESPN and ESPN Plus. Um, and I believe they go Monday and Tuesday. It depends. This past Monday they had a triple header yesterday. And tonight they will have Tiger Woods, the Jupiter Golf Links, take on the New York Golf Club that has Ricky Fowler on it. So
Yeah, and I'm not gonna lie, like it was one of those things when I first heard about it, I really, I thought it was gonna be cool for like a week or two, and then it was gonna tail off a little bit. But you kind of went where I was gonna go with it, like in terms of having the players mic'd up. I feel like you definitely get to hear a lot more of not only the game, but like the guys' personalities, and then also the fact that it's all in one night. Like one of my problems with golf is it's a 4-day event every weekend, so obviously you're not gonna be able to watch every single shot, every single moment of a tournament. And so like TGL is able to condense it all into one night and also make it a team sport as well as, it being a little more lively. Like, I think the golf tournaments that draw me in the most are like the waste management and whatnot because the crowds are livelier. It's a little more unconventional and
mhm.
unorthodox. And like TGL brings that every single time. And I'm interested to see like where it goes from here. SoFi Center, I think it's a cool place. It doesn't hold a ton of people. I'm wondering maybe if like in the next coming years, maybe we put it in bigger venues where there's a little more of a crowd to it, and see where it goes from there. But Joey actually got me into it. I heard about it, didn't really tune in, and then I started to lock in. And like this past weekend was a really good weekend for TGL too. Finally, like first Sunday removed without football. TGL kind of saving that at least on Monday with three really good matches.
Yeah, I was about to say this was probably one of the best golf matches I've seen. A triple header, like I said, starting off in the morning. Atlanta defeating Edwards Golf Club.
Yeah.
He is the proud fan of LA Golf Club. Do you want to say who's on that team? Do you know who's on that team?
Oh, my man, Sahith Theegala. And they also kind of look like a wagon the first two matches. So I was hopping on the bandwagon, but like you mentioned, Joy, they did get beat, unfortunately. So maybe I'm questioning, who my allegiance should be towards, but I'm gonna rock with LA still.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, Atlanta winning that match 6-5. So how the scoring goes, obviously it goes by holes one. But then they have this thing called the hammer that allows a team to make the hole worth 2 points if the other team accepts the hammer. And usually it's when they're putting, if someone makes a bad chip shot, doesn't get out of the bunker, other team's gonna throw the hammer in and say, you know what, we want this hole worth two. And I think that's really what made the games competitive. But yeah, Atlanta looking like a wagon. I'm not gonna lie. You talk about a wagon. I'm rolling with Atlanta as the wagon. Even though they lost the next match to the Bay, which is out of San Francisco, they lost 6-5 to who else? Ludwig, obviously.
Nope.
And then later that night, Ludwig came back. He said, "You know what? I'm not done. I just won the Genesis Invitational. I just beat Justin Thomas and Atlanta. Let me
Yep.
go over to Boston and whip some of Rory McIlroy's ass."
Why
And
not?
he beat him 5-4 later that night. So believe, let me pull up the standings, but all in all, like what are your final thoughts of this TGO? And if you want to, you could break down who's on each team for the people at home, if you
Yeah,
can,
well,
Edward.
I do just real quick want to also mention that Atlanta, LA did go to an overtime. So like there is, that additional aspect. It was closest to the pin. So they just went back and forth until Atlanta um got the better of them. But yeah, I'm trying to pull up the teams here. So there is Atlanta, Boston, Jupiter, LA, and New York in the Bay. So what's that? Six teams, five teams,
Hmm.
six teams. If you want me to break down every team, they all don't. I also mentioned like every player doesn't play every single night, just three of them. So, the rosters kind of shuffle up. But Atlanta's got Justin Thomas, Patrick Cantlay, Billy Horschel, and Lucas Glover. Boston, that's Roy McIlroy's team. Kind of a good team as well. McIlroy, Matsuyama, Keegan Bradley, Adam Scott. The Jupiter team is Tiger's team. Tiger Woods, Max Homa, Tom Kim, Kevin Kisner. The grouping for tonight, which obviously this will be posted after the fact, but it's going to be Tom Kim, Kisner, and Woods, I believe. Maybe I have that wrong. I don't know. LA, Colin Morikawa, Heath Theegala, Justin Rose, Tommy Fleetwood. New York, Matt Fitzpatrick, Ricky Fowler, Xander Schauffele, Cameron Young. New York in action tonight as well. And then the Bay, you got Ludwig, Wyndham Clark, Minwoo Lee, and Shane Lowry. So a good, I think also like one other thing too is like it's a good selection of players on the roster, A1 talent. It's not like a bunch of scrubs off the PGA Tour that, uh, committed to doing the TGL. It's some of the best players on tour are also doing this.
Yeah. And then I'll pull up the standings right here. The Bay Golf Club is in first with 6 points, with three match plays and three wins. So they're 3-0. Not looking to stop at all, especially Ludwig. But we just got to take that guy out, and then I think a team has a chance.
Right.
Your Los Angeles Golf Club is in second with 5 points. They are with three matches played and two wins and one OT loss. So I guess the OT has something to do with the
Kind of like
losses.
hockey, I think you get like a point just to push it to OT. So
Okay. And then Atlanta in third and Jupiter in fourth. I think the only team that hasn't won yet. Oh, two teams, Boston and New York, which is kind of surprising. I thought Boston would be the heavy favorites with McElroy in there, but yeah, seem to be struggling right now.
Yeah, Boston had a couple. I was watching some highlights back. Matsuyama had a couple of opportunities, at least on the green, wasn't able to convert. And, I think it's kind of interesting seeing how some of these players react to the environment and like whether that makes a difference or not, I don't know. But like guys like Matsuyama, big putt, big moment, crowd heckling him, kind of just folded on the green. So I don't know. I mean, like some players I feel like rise to the occasion while others don't. I don't know. It'd be interesting to see some guys like really embrace the crowd. So
Yeah. And like I said, tonight, Tuesday night, this episode should be posted Wednesday. Jupiter is facing New York, which is New York's got to look to get on the board. They have no
yeah,
points at all and no wins.
yeah,
So and then tiebreakers will go from holes one. So right now, if Los Angeles was tied with the Bay, they would be in first with 20 holes won. And the grand prize of this all is a SoFi Cup that's pretty legit. It's all like silvered out, platinumed out, and then it has LED lights that'll light up in the team's colors at the end of the year. So
yeah. Shout out to Tiger and Rory for making this go. I mean, it's always like
yeah,
there's always like kind of a lull in the sports calendar at this time of year with football ending, and I don't know, TGL coming in clutch.
yeah, facts. So that's all we got for TGL. We'll keep you updated weekly. Definitely recommend you guys watching it. It's better than regular golf. I will say that for a casual fan, definitely recommend watching it. And yeah, hopefully we get a sponsorship from them for
Yeah, I mean,
glazing them.
yeah, I welcome it at any moment, any moment. Speaking of the lull in the sports calendar, though, take it over to the hoops bus. It's the NBA All-Star Weekend recap. Joey, out in the Bay. Out in the Bay.
Yeah,
Shout out to the Bay. Uh,
yeah.
New format this year for those of you who either didn't watch our episode last week or just, need a refresher. There were three teams. Shaq, Kenny, and Chuck all had a team. And then actually, there was Team Candace that had some of the Rising Stars, the winner of the Rising Star format, who got shuffled into the mix. But it was Shaq OGs who defeated Chuck's Global Stars. So take note of the names. 41 to 25 in the championship game. Steph Curry won the MVP. Kind of mixed reviews from some of the players. I think, at least from a casual perspective, watching it wasn't a fantastic product. I mean, the NBA All-Star weekend has had a lot of flaws, I think, in recent years, particularly pertaining to the defense. What they did the previous couple of years, they had three timed quarters, and then they would in the fourth quarter get a target score to try to increase, defensive awareness, as they put it. Um, but yeah, kind of the more of the same in this format this weekend. There was also like prolonged stoppages that people didn't like. They just randomly stopped the game mid, or they stopped the action mid game to do random stuff, which I was not a fan of. Also, kind of went really late into the night that people didn't like on the East Coast. So definitely all over the place. Joy, I don't know if you have any solutions to fix the All-Star weekend. I know one that was floated in a press conference post game that kind of interests me was doing a USA versus the world type game, and I think that's the only thing that really may I don't know, I guess improve the quality of the game.
My thing would be probably doing the two teams and winner gets the I guess like home court advantage
Yeah,
in the finals. I think
yeah,
that's always a smart play. You saw the MLB do it for a long
that's
time.
yeah, it definitely worked in the MLB. And I know some people have said that too, like. I wouldn't mind if they went back to East versus West and then did obviously, like you said, home court advantage. Um, some people don't. Now, the only pushback against that was some people would not like that. Just in late season or late regular season games, if teams already have the top spot in the conference locked up, now there is at least some sort of incentive to play in those late regular season games to try to have the best record in order to get home court in the finals. But nonetheless, another All-Star weekend in the books. Durant was on Twitter. He said, just give everyone a break on All-Star weekend. Just have like a week of no basketball so the fans appreciate the product when it comes back. So, I mean, I guess that's another tactic. You also had the 3-point and dunk contest. Mac McClung once again won the dunk contest. A G League player getting dragged up into the NBA to win the dunk contest. He kind of said afterwards that he didn't know if it was going to be he didn't know if he was going to return to it. Um, but definitely one of the players that I'm more impressed with in the dunk contest. But we really haven't been treated with a good dunk contest since like the 2016 days where you had Aaron Gordon and Zach LaVine throwing down. I don't know. I feel like we need one year with like John Morant or some of the superstars being brought out.
Yeah, they said they wouldn't do that. Which I mean, I don't know why. But yeah, Mac McClung is saving the dunk contest. I will give a shout out to Castle. What's his
Yeah,
name? Steph Castle.
yeah,
He did put on some cool dunks. You got to be creative with dunks, and I feel like that's what they were. Those two were definitely. McClung dunked over a car. Not only did he pull a Blake Griffin, but he dunked over the tallest part of the car with a person out the sunroof, um, holding the ball. So that's never been done before. Um, I mean, he's also just like jumping over grown human beings and
yeah,
like touching the rim and dunking it. So, yeah, his bounce is insane. But shout out to Steph Castle. He did put on a good show. He had like a underneath reverse through the legs dunk. That was
yeah,
pretty cool after catching it as it goes through the hoop. That was probably his best dunk. But yeah, shout out the dunk contest, probably saving it. It's like the home run derby in baseball. Um, these things are kind of better than the actual All-Star games, I feel like.
yeah, yeah. I guess some other notes as well. We had the 3-point contest. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but there was a college student that beat Damian Lillard to win 100K.
Yeah, Mr.
So
Beast, shout out Mr. Beast.
how do you feel about that? Because that's our guy.
I don't, yeah, I don't really care, bro. I saw Dame go off in the game and he did his thing. So he
Yeah,
won the first game for Shaq. So
yeah. One other note too, made some headlines from the All-Star weekend. LeBron James sitting out, and really is a non-headline, other than the fact that he announced it pretty much right before the game that he was not going to play. Had some had some critics saying that he should have stepped out a while ago, let someone else take that spot. LeBron blamed he's got this like foot injury, lower leg injury, I should say, he's been dealing with for a while. He sat out, took a lot of heat for it. Um, I don't know, Joy. I mean, you're LeBron James. You're trying to make a push for ring number 5, and you're age 40 in season 22. I mean, got to give the guy a break, no?
yeah, I'm be honest, I don't know why this is a big issue. Honestly, I would have just gave the spot to Bronny. I think he deserves it all of
Yeah.
them. So
So, well, NBA regular season back underway on Wednesday. Speaking of LeBron and Bronny, the Lakers are in action on Wednesday night. There's just one game across the league. Charlotte travels to LA. Hearing rumors that Bron might sit out for the Charlotte and Portland game, which would be Wednesday and Thursday to get a full 9 days off. Uh, but definitely an exciting second half to the NBA regular season for all the aforementioned trades that we talked about last week. Luka with the Lakers, obviously Anthony Davis getting sent to Dallas, and then San Antonio with a new duo down there, as well as Sacramento making some moves. So I think definitely an intriguing second half of the regular season that the NBA has in store, and of course we're going to be covering here on the PNN podcast.
absolutely. Shout out Lakers, shout out Lake Show.
Yeah,
Um,
ring our banner number 18 coming right up.
yeah, we'll see about that. Um, but let's get into some spring training news, and then that'll probably be the end of this episode. First things first, we gotta talk about the spring breakout returning. I believe if you guys didn't catch that last year, it's basically where a bunch of the top prospects come to show out and showcase their talents
Yeah,
after like a spring training game has ended. Basically like big prospect games. So we got in the Cactus League, We got the Cubs facing LA, which is going to be a good one. Obviously, the Dodgers are just signing everybody, as we'll get into
Right.
later. A's against the Padres. Mariners against the Guardians, which is a good one. Kansas City versus Arizona. Texas versus the Giants. Angels versus the Cubs. How you like that one? How you see yourself pulling out of that one?
Well, I think during that game, I'm just not gonna be able to talk to you because I might be a little too a little too hostile.
Here's the thing, bro. All our prospects are on our actual team because we're so
Okay.
fucking shit. You
So
know what I mean?
it's pretty much just your MLB team playing.
Yeah, you take Trout off and then maybe like one other veteran and it's all our
Right.
prospects. So good luck.
Okay.
Rockies against the White Sox, and then the Reds against the Brewers. So you'll see those prospects show out during the games, on random dates. And yeah, they're exciting games, obviously. And a lot of people go to get autographs there for like, the next big thing showing up. Um, so yeah, those we'll cover those in the Cactus League. Obviously, we'll get into the Grapefruit League later in the season, probably next episode. But let's get into this Cactus League talk since we're right here in
Yeah.
the valley.
Little over a day
Um,
out too from spring training. I guess we should mention that as well.
yeah, exciting stuff. Can't wait to just be out there on the lawn catching
Yeah.
some games. So we'll get into some off-season transactions for these Cactus League teams. If you guys weren't aware of like some of the non-headliner signings, I should say. So we'll get into the big ones. Obviously, the Dodgers signed everybody, including LeBron James,
Yes.
Bronny James, Bugs Bunny, and
All
I
of them.
think
I think you too.
Luca.
I think this time you as well. No.
I think they got Luca instead of
Oh,
me.
okay.
You know,
I think they were going to go for you, and then they just decided Luca at the last minute. But yeah,
yeah. But
estimated
obviously,
payroll 376 million, folks. Three hundred and
yeah,
seventy six million dollars for next year.
yeah. I wish I had that money,
Yeah,
but it's cool to just blow it on guys you don't even know.
yeah.
So pause on that. But some acquisitions they got this offseason: Blake Snell, 5-year deal; Roki Sasaki, another Japanese baseball legend. Teoscar Hernandez re-signed for a 3-year deal. Tanner Scott from the Padres on a 4-year deal. Re-signed Kershaw to a 1-year deal. Signed Kirby Yates for the bullpen. Blake Trinan re-signed. And yeah, I don't see really a weakness anywhere. And the fact you have Shohei Ohtani coming back to pitch.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, just Shohei Ohtani also thrown into the mix as well. Yeah. I mean, I think like if you're the Dodgers, obviously you're in the market for every big star. You didn't get Juan Soto; he went to the Mets, but you just instead fire back with about eight other moves that are A1 moves for any other franchise. So I expect the Dodgers to be right back in it. Like I said, $376 million payroll, and what also I think is impressive to me is a lot of this money that they have got sunk into guys like Shohei and whatnot. That's all deferred money, so they're still on the books for it, but that's not until like 2032 or something. So they're spending realistically a lot more than that number shows. And honestly, if they're not right back in the picture to win it, I don't know what to tell them.
Yeah, it's basically who can beat the Dodgers at this
Right.
point. And honestly, I don't see a weakness. Like I said, Shohei's coming back to not only hit, he's gonna pitch, and he can steal bags. So there's Shohei. That's your leadoff. You got Mookie, Freddie Freeman, Teoscar. You re-signed Kike, Max Muncy, obviously. So yeah, like who has the best chance of beating them? I couldn't give you an answer right now.
No, I don't know. And I think like one thing we were saying going into last season was we didn't know if the Dodgers could win the big games, when they got there. And obviously they showed us they could. It was one of those, very flashy World Series with two of the biggest franchises in the sport squaring off. And obviously the Dodgers showed us that no, they do have the best talent, and eventually talent will win out if you just keep spending the money. So shout out to the
Yeah.
Dodgers.
Yeah. Some other big name signings we'll get into the D-backs. to sign Corbin Burns on a 6-year deal and traded for Josh Naylor from the Guardians. Again, another NL West team that is just trying to beat the Dodgers by any means necessary. Already had a pretty good roster. Kind of what would you say? Kind of a down year last year, especially after making the World Series the year before.
Yeah. I mean, I think too, you also take into account Zach Gallen, Cy Young contender, was already in that rotation. So I would have considered their rotation to be solid to begin with. But then you signed Corbin Burns, one of the better starters out on the free agent market this year, and you kind of addressed your first base need as well. So I think probably. One of the divisions I'm most interested in seeing. We'll talk about some of the other teams too, but like the Giants are right in that mix as well. So kind of a wild, wild west scenario out there.
Yeah. And then another big signing was your Cubs getting Kyle Tucker
Yeah,
in replace for Cody Bellinger out there, and then signing Ryan Presley or trading for Ryan Presley also with the Astros. So just kind of taking all the Astros, I guess. Is that what you're trying to do?
pretty much. Yeah, I mean, I think the impressive thing to me about the Kyle Tucker trade was it out of any move probably in the last 2 years, it showed fans like they're somewhat willing to spend money, but at the same time, they're not. Kyle Tucker, I would say, probably the biggest signing in the last 2 years for the Cubs. And as far as Presley goes, Cubs have long needed some bullpen help and really some pitching help just in general. They got it there. Will the Cubs, be contenders this year? Probably not, but I like where we're trended. I like heading in that direction. Every year I have the same conversation. I'm pretty sure I talked about it last year on the PNN podcast too, is like, why can't the Cubs spend money? One of the biggest franchises in the sport, one of the most iconic franchises in baseball. And for whatever reason, we can't break out the checkbook and sign guys. But I think the Kyle Tucker move, at least for me, gives me a little optimism. Cubs got an offseason grade of B, according to the Athletic. So I guess shout out to them. Payroll was still cut by almost $40 million. So we'll see, I guess.
Yeah. So gonna be cool to see him out in Sloan though.
Yes,
Um,
that's one of the more
especially with the PCA. I like PCA.
UCA, yep, and he always kind of brings an interesting look out to spring training, I should say, to say the least. Cubs also, I believe, are the D-backs home opener this year, so right off the rip, a pretty exciting series down here in the Valley.
Yeah, definitely gonna attend that for sure. Moving on to the next teams in the Cactus League, we got the Brewers. Not much really going on with the Brewers other than trading for Nestor Cortez. That was kind of the only main signing for them. Again, another team that was devastated by the walk-off
Yeah.
in what I think game 3 against the Mets. So a team that can obviously hang, but got to get over the hump. And I don't know. What do you think? I think they lost more in this offseason than they got.
Yeah, especially with Willie Adames leaving, obviously one of the fan favorites out there in Milwaukee. I will say, I did watch that walk off with a Brewers fan right next to me, so it was pretty sweet times as a Cubs fan, but definitely a team that took a pretty low offseason grade, but probably more so just due to the fact that they lost guys and they really weren't able to compensate for them.
Yeah. Speaking of Willie Adames, he goes to the Giants on a 7-year deal. Shout out Buster Posey for actually making some good moves.
Um,
And also the Giants get Justin Verlander on a 1-year deal. So, what do you think about the Giants? Like I said, I think they could be sneaky, but then you brought me down to earth and said, look at the division they play in.
Right. And, I think that's I want to say that's part of the reason the Giants felt the need to make these moves is just they see where the rest of the division is going. The D-backs have proved themselves, I think, more than just being maybe one-year wonders with that one playoff run. I think they are legitimate contenders for second place in the division. Like you said, Joy, it's the race to second. And
Hmm.
I think that's where the Giants' headspace was, at least with going out and getting Adonis on such a long deal and then adding Verlander to the mix. So I see them right in there. But like we mentioned, like just the rest is second in that division. So limiting the damage against the teams you can within your own division.
Yeah. Um, yeah, not kind of an interesting team. kind of like not a lot of big games, but they still find ways to win games. I think their rotation is going to have to carry them a long way. But yeah, we'll see how the San Francisco Giants do. Always good to hear from the local fans out there.
Yeah, shout out to the Bay.
All right, bro.
Also, I should mention this real fast too. The Bay's only got one baseball team now, so it's Giants or bust. So, you know, heavy is the heavy
Yeah, yeah,
ground now. So,
yeah. Giants won't be leaving anytime soon.
okay,
But yeah, let's get into the Cleveland Guardians,
how about it?
a team that was in the what AL Championship, I want to say.
You know,
They re-signed Shane Bieber. Great signing there. Definitely need him on a 1-year deal. Signed first base Carlos Santana, who was there originally with them for a few years, now back with them, and get bullpen arm Paul Sewald on a 1-year deal. Like I said, this is a team that obviously could hang in the playoffs, making the AL championship. Their pitching coaches and staff is probably the best in the league. Um, but yeah, I don't know. They're just a team that's there, but doesn't really scare anybody, you know? Do you feel that same way?
yeah, well, and once again, just looking at their division, obviously the White Sox are nowhere near being anything to take into consideration. But you also got teams like the Tigers who have been on the rise as of late. The Twins are decent. The Royals, a lot of young talent on that team. So I think a team that maybe gets overlooked just by virtue of almost being there every year, just because their division hasn't been great. But maybe that's different now with the addition of some more talent in that AL Central.
Yeah. Speaking of the Royals, they sign second base Jonathan India, or they trade for him from the Reds, which is was pretty surprising for me.
You know,
India kind of seemed like, one of those pillars that was going to be on the Reds with Ellie De La Cruz and all of them in that middle infield, but it's a business. Everything happens for a reason. And they sign bullpen arm Carlos Estevez from, I believe he was on the Phillies for on a 2-year deal. A good bullpen closer arm for them. Like you said, a good young team. Bobby Wood Jr. Would make the case for AL MVP this year. So Royals are another sneaky team. It's going to be good to see them out here though. I'm definitely going to have to attend some Royals games.
yeah, and I love what they did last offseason, made a quite a bit of moves. It resulted in a 30 win improvement just over the offseason of 1 year. And then this year they continue to spend more money. Their payroll increases from 114 million to 132. So a team that's in there to win. You go back to the early 20 teens where they had World Series run, and quite a lot of buzz around the team then. And I'm kind of seeing that almost be recreated now. Obviously, I wouldn't put them in that tier of conversation quite yet, but like I said, a team that's in the business to win and 30 win improvement last offseason. So we'll see what they can do this year.
Yeah, I mean you saw them last year, I believe. They swept or won the series. I know they won the series with the Orioles, who are another rising team.
So,
But you see, that's a great sign, and Kansas City's starting to be a big market out there because of the Patrick Mahomes and everything. So
uh,
why not get the Royals up there, you know?
they share a parking lot, those two teams as well. So,
Yeah, yeah, great observation there, Edward Neiman. We'll go into the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. Their major signings were left-handed pitcher UC Kikuchi on a 3-year deal, trading for outfielder Jorge Soler with the Braves, and then signing Kenley Jansen on a 1-year deal. This team would be absolutely stacked if this was 2018 or 2019. I believe we got like Yohan Moncada also with Tim Anderson, and yeah, I just no faith at all in me. We could skip over that if you'd like to.
okay. Yeah, I mean, I don't watch your guys, all that much, but I did see they got a C in offseason grade. So, I mean, not the worst,
Okay,
right? It could have been worse.
love that. We'll take a 70%. At least we're not failing. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Also, some other Angels news. Mike Trout announced that he will be moving to right field this year as opposed to playing center field. So hopefully that helps him stay away from the injury bug as much as possible. And then we'll get into the Sacramento A's. Are we allowed to call them that yet?
I don't know. I mean, they're just going by the Athletics, but I think we have to call them the Sacramento A's this year.
Yeah. Their major signings was right-handed pitcher Luis Severino on a 2-year deal. Honestly, not a bad pick, but as your ace, I don't like it. He was good with the Mets as like their fourth or third day starter, which I think is what he's going to be now, or what he should be now, not number one guy. And then you got left-handed pitcher Jeffrey Springs with a trade from the Rays, who was honestly an underrated signing. Before he was injured, I believe last season he was probably top ranked pitchers. A guy that doesn't throw hard but hits his spots and has a lot of junk, and obviously from the left-handed side, um, is going to be deadly. And then signing bullpen arm Jose Leclerc from the Rangers on a 1-year deal. Another underrated signing, World Series champion Jose Leclerc. Um, Nothing really special about the A's though. I don't think, you
No,
know.
I mean, I just see it to be honest with you. I think there should be at least some level of pressure on them to start to spend though, because if their whole grand plan is to go to Las Vegas and build up a fan base out there, I think you need to start now with making moves and increasing, the amount you're spending on players. And maybe that didn't happen this offseason, but we'll see where they go from here. But like I said, it's all about the future for them.
Yeah. And then another in division opponent, the Mariners, Seattle Mariners. Um, no really major signs at all. I'm gonna be honest. A team that's, right there in the AL West, and no major signs, just Jorge Polanco re-signed on a 1-year deal. They did get an offseason grade of a D.
Okay.
So, yeah, thoughts on the Mariners?
None, none at all.
Cool.
None.
Great. Yeah,
Sean,
honestly, all I would say is, last year that division was kind of who's going to beat the Astros or Rangers. I think it's kind of up in the air right now. What do you think for that division?
yeah, I definitely second that.
Okay. Okay. And then we'll move into the Rangers. Like we just said, some major signs are Nathan Eovaldi. Re-signed him to a 3-year deal. Good signing there. And then signing Jock Peterson on a 2-year deal. Believe he was here in the Valley, right? With the D-backs.
Oh, yeah, he's bounced around recently, but yeah, most recently here with the D-backs.
Yeah. And then trading for Jake Berger with from the Miami Marlins. So yeah, just getting some bats in that lineup. Obviously, you had Corey Seager and Adolis Garcia in there with Marcus Simeon. So kind of a good lineup. We'll see how it plays out for them. Moving on to the Reds, the Cincinnati Reds. They signed Nick Martinez. I believe he's a starter slash relief pitcher. Came from the Padres. And then we have Brady Singer with a trade from the Royals. Kind of another surprise for me. Brady Singer kind of seemed to be another pillar for that young team in that rotation. Um, but she gets traded to the Reds, which is a great signing for them. They need all the pitching they can get with that stacked lineup, and then adding to the lineup, they get Gavin Lux with a trade from the Dodgers and another relief pitcher, Taylor Rogers from the Giants. So you see them hammering that rotation and that bullpen staff. Um, I like the Reds this year a lot. So thoughts
Yeah,
on the Reds at all?
obviously, some shakeup at least from a manager standpoint. So that I feel like for me always prompts internal change and kind of a look to the margins, and I think that's what you do looking at your pitching. But yeah, another division that I feel like is not exactly a runaway division for any one of those teams. Cubs could obviously be in the mix. Brewers, could be there as well. At least should be there. So I think the Reds could make a run this year and make a push, but it just depends on how the division shakes out. Every year it's kind of a wild card.
Yeah. Agreed with that. Let's move on to the Padres, a team that's kind of already set in stone, losing a couple pieces. Um, but they signed first baseman Yuli Gurriel, I believe, like yesterday or today, on a minor league deal, and they re-signed catcher Elias Diaz on a 1-year deal. Like I said, this is a team that's going to probably play for second but could make a run in for first place. I think they probably have the best shot of taking down the Dodgers in that division.
Yeah, kind of a streaky team. A team that, in my opinion, the last 2 years has gone on some really good runs just in spurts. I think it's just about putting it together for them. But yeah, I mean, like you said, it's a race for second in that division. But if they can separate themselves from the Diamondbacks and Giants, I think early in the season they got a real good crack at not only the two, but potentially at least get within striking distance of that one.
Yeah. We'll end with the biggest teams in the Cactus League here, the Colorado Rockies and the Chicago White Sox.
Right.
Rockies signed infielder Kyle Farmer on a 1-year deal, and infielder Tyro Estrada from the Giants. Um, Good to skip over that.
Yeah, for sure.
And then the White Sox signed left-handed starter Martin Perez from the Pirates and outfielder Austin Slater, who I think was on the Giants also.
Right.
So
So yeah, the White Sox, spending 150 mil last year, 81 mil this year after having the worst record in like the history of history. So shout out to them. I mean, really looking to make improvements on that team by spending about half, and should be a big year for them.
yeah, not to mention they share their spring training stadium with the Dodgers. So
Yeah,
maybe they'll take some notes on how
they should. I'm
organization
yeah.
should run.
It's sitting right in front of them. All they got to do is just take a meander over to the Dodger games and maybe pick up a little something.
Yeah, but that's all the Cactus League off-season signs. We'll get into the grapefruit next week. But like we said, spring training starting this week. Definitely gonna have to go out to some games. Gonna catch some of these familiar faces in new places, as they say,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I'm excited. Spring training, I tell everyone back at home that's not down here for it. It's just a completely different vibe than like a regular season game. Get out on the lawn, soak up some sun in February and March and never disappoints.
Yeah, agreed, brother. I think that's gonna wrap it up for this
Yeah.
episode, Edward. Want to take it
Episode
out?
episode number 2 in the books. Like we mentioned, obviously some more spring training action to go over next week. Spring training will be in full swing by then, so a little more to talk about in terms of that as well. NBA second half will be starting, so early look at that, and we'll keep you up to date on TGL and everything else that the sports world has to offer. But as always, for Joy Parady, Edward Neiman, we'll say peace until next week.
Shout out Tiger Woods, go Jupiter.